So Republicans shut down the government and ran away from Washington is really the only way to describe it. And now they're using this shutdown as cover for their plans to fire thousands of people from the government. Over 4,000 workers have received notices that they're on the chopping block, as Project 2025 architect Russ Vought chases a goal of firing 10,000 federal workers. Now, those cuts have hit everywhere, from infectious disease monitoring and the CDC to the Department of Education's Office of Special Education. But unions for federal workers sued the Trump administration, and today they won. Today, a judge issued a ruling that blocks all of the firings for the time being. But the Trump administration has made it clear they can and will put a target on the backs of federal workers. And it led Senator Andy Kim, a Democrat from New Jersey and a former career federal worker himself, to speak out for those workers today.
We owe them better than what they're seeing right now and how they're being treated. We owe them better than a politics that demonizes them and their work. And we also see the president and his mob boss-like cronies like Russell Vought and Stephen Miller continuing to step up and use our government, weaponizing it as a tool for political retribution and political extortion. We owe our public servants better.
Joining us now, Senator Andy Kim, a Democrat from New Jersey. It's so interesting and powerful to have somebody who is a former civil servant themselves to be in the Senate and understand what these workers are going through. I just talked about the court case and the ruling today. So what's your reaction to that?
Well, look, I'm glad that the federal workers got some reprieve today, but they're still very nervous about this. And when I went back to New Jersey, I sat with some federal workers in a diner, and they said something that really stuck with me. They said, I just want you to know, we're not just feeling this way since October 1st with this shutdown. We've been feeling this way since January 20th. This administration has been systematically trying to antagonize them, trying to make their life hell. I mean, we saw that with what Russell Vought said before, which is he said he wants to traumatize federal workers. He wants them to wake up feeling like the enemy. And one of them said that, mission accomplished. He wakes up every day feeling like he is painted as a target, as the enemy. And, so this is something where, people are really struggling right now. But I will say one thing, and I say this as someone who used to be a federal worker, a career civil servant, is, these federal workers told me that, they swore an oath to protect and defend this Constitution. And yes, they're going through a lot right now, but they tell me, hold the line. There's so much at stake right now. They could have taken any job. The reason why these federal workers chose to serve our country is because they believe in our democracy.
It's a very powerful message for people to be offering who are going through this. There was this discussion during the last shutdown fight that Democrats shouldn't back a shutdown because Russ Vought and Project 2025 world would try to do these mass firings. It seems to me that makes it clear that they had every intention of always doing this. What's your impression of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is their playbook. And when you see the president and Russell Vought gleefully saying that they have the chance to be able to fire all these federal workers, they have the chance to be able to go after Democratic projects, including, President Trump saying today that he wants to terminate the Gateway Tunnel project, which would be devastating, not just for my state, but for this country. These are the kind of mob boss tactics that people can't stand. And I honestly think that it's backfiring, because how can you credibly try to look the people in the eye, as Speaker Johnson tries to do, and say he doesn't want to shut down, while you are also gleefully talking about how you can use this to be able to get good things done and go after these programs that you've been wanting to do. This is the problem that we see of the weaponization of our government by Donald Trump.
No question about it. You have such an interesting background. You've seen, you worked in the national security space. You're now in the Senate. You've campaigned across New Jersey. I started the show kind of talking about all of the different things that the Trump administration appears to be doing, in my view, to make it harder for people to participate in the process. Military in the streets, fighting, against voting rights. How do you see this, and how concerned are you about what they're going to try to do before the midterm elections?
Well, I'm very concerned about this. I think this is an incredibly dangerous moment. When I look at what's happening, what we see right now is we don't have three functioning branches of government right now. We have one branch of government that is trying to dominate the other branches of government and make them subservient to his will. And that is a danger. He is absolutely going after the fundamentals of our Constitution on the eve of our 250th anniversary as a country. And I hope that the American people see that. And I hope that they recognize what is at stake and why this is so important for us to stand up against.
There's a big election in New Jersey. I don't know if you've heard, coming up in just a few weeks. I know you're involved in it when you can be. How important is this election and race? And what do you think people should take away from the outcome if Mikey Sherrill wins?
Well, look, it's very important. I mean, it's certainly, we're looking to elect the next governor that's going to be the governor to my kids and my family. But it's also about sending a message across this country. I was saying to some New Jerseyans this past weekend that, we are like the Iowa, New Hampshire of the midterm elections. This is going to set the tone for what comes next. And hopefully, as the history books are written about how we get out of this tailspin as a country, hopefully they will write that New Jersey helped show the way. But, there's a lot at stake right now. And again, I want to bring it back down to the people that are really struggling. The people that are telling me how they're so scared about losing their health care, that they're so worried about what's happening. And what I want to link is that the reason why your health care is costing so much is because of just this blatant corruption of this administration. An administration that's spending, over $20 billion bailing out Argentina?
40 now, it sounds
40 now, whereas, to be able to fund the ACA subsidies for 1 year, it was $35 billion. So they'd rather give that away to Argentina rather than to the American people. This is clearly something that is just about undermining the fabric of our Constitution and hurting so many families. And for what? I mean, I keep saying this over and over again. Donald Trump has made billions of dollars since January 20th. How much has your family made since January 20th? It is clearly a profiteering off the Oval Office that we've never seen before in the history of this country. And that's why your health care costs so much more.
That's a very good way to end this conversation, Senator Andy Kim. You can always span the gamut with you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.